bars. All right, all right, all right. Let's do this. Welcome to the WTH Show. What are we covering tonight? Here, broadcasting from Charleston, West Virginia. Ding, ding. Sorry, my bad. I don't want to offend anybody. Anyways,
I'm gonna say, let's not cut the people down when you're sitting in a fucking Cracker Barrel parking lot recording a podcast. Asshole. No offense to Cracker Barrel.
Anyhow, all
That's
right.
a dick move right there.
All right. So, what are we covering tonight? Consumer report errors. The Kroger and their, what do you want to call that, Dan? The orders that they keep screwing up online. Is that a good summary?
It's the whole at store pickup. And people then complaining about the self-service checkout lanes.
There we go. The solar story, we're holding till last because that, I think, is the best. I don't know what Dan thinks. We'll get his opinion in a minute. Melanie, roll the intro.
All right, all right, all right. Let's do this. Welcome to the WTH Show. What's that mean? What the hell? We share customer experiences gone wrong and the few that got it right. We are a place to vent, get advice, and help if we feel we can make a positive impact. Know that you are not alone. If you or someone you know had a problem with a business and want to be on the show, please go to WTHshow.com. Then click on Start Here.
All right, consumer report errors. This is Consumer Reports, and we will have the link for it a little bit later, but it's a local news story, and it's a story from Consumer Reports about Consumer Report. Here's the highlights of this. There's many things that go on with your consumer reports, meaning, what is there, 3 credit reporting companies, and then everybody else, all these other companies reporting into them, and then it gets on your credit reports. I think the quick analysis from my perspective is, guys, every 3 months to 6 months, make sure you're checking your credit report. And the other one is, I lock my credit. I've always said lock my credit. I don't know about Dan, what do you do with your credit report?
Keep an eye on it to make certain there's nothing out there that catches me unawares. You never know when people are trying to get the better of you. Things are way too easy. Don't know when you've signed up for something you had no intention of signing up for right now.
And what I've found is locking your credit report or freezing it in some other people's terms. I've done real well with that, but I always check mine every 3 to 6 months, and just to see what's being reported to my credit report. Do you lock your credit report, Dan?
No, I just check it. I totally understand. Keep locking it down. I'm very well aware of what's coming and going from my accounts at all times, so I keep an eye on it. About every 3 months, I pull it just to make certain I'm not caught by surprise for something.
And then there was one other thing in this article that I wanted to bring up, credit reports. Of course, you can always get your credit reports at annualcreditreport.com. Oh, a lot of the pieces of information that are on there, personal information, duplicate accounts, closed accounts, I've always found that one where they don't close accounts. Things pop up that got closed many years ago. So keep a look on for that. And it's interesting, you know, so many people love to picture or Rick. Anyway, sorry. I got a little paparazzi out here. Anyways, sidebar. Anyways. All right. Anyways, get your credit report checked.
In their defense, they do think Peyton Manning had just pulled into their parking lot.
Here.
Say.
Alrighty. Moving on to our next story of the evening. Kroger. Here's my take on this, guys. And this doesn't just go for Kroger. We've had these articles on the show in the past. There's a disconnect between the online business of brick and mortar and the brick and mortar execution. What I mean by that is Kroger has online shopping, and then it has to get executed at the local store. In this case, it was the order is just in this vicious cycle, and the guy's still not getting his money back, and they're not delivering the order is the easiest way to talk about it. And what's your perspective on that?
My perspective is that company. First thing is, I don't understand the person that will go buy their own groceries. I'm going to start there. Buy your own groceries. You don't have to order them online. There's a certain level of laziness I do not understand, and but not being willing to buy your own groceries is one of them. But I will say, if you paid for that service, you get the service. So if you have somebody that's done it 3 times and they keep failing 3 times, maybe you ought to look at whether or not you should use a service again. But I can tell you right now, Kroger's not going to spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. They have so many more customers out there. They're not going to spend hours and hours bending over backwards to fix your issue. Now, it would be nice if they gave him his money back. And that sounds like it's the biggest crux of the problem is he's still trying to get his money back here. Kroger probably needs to correct that. End of the day, buy your own groceries won't be an issue. And I know that's not going to be the most popular opinion, but end of the day, just buy your own damn groceries. People have been doing it for hundreds of years.
I'm a little bit on the opposite side of this. Well, Melanie would say this, not just me.
I know you would.
Well,
Which is why I said that.
and the reason why is she often goes into the Walmart shopping cart and she just reorders the same stuff with one click. And it generally is very quick. In this case, Kroger just needs to belly up, give him his money back, and move on. That's the irritating part.
I agree.
For us, the execution part of Walmart, there has been some problems where they just substitute certain brands on the fly. And it's not always good, but it keeps the orders moving and it keeps us moving. And they do a relatively good part. Here's the bigger picture to all of this online ordering and executing locally. What I find often, if it's Target or any of these other ones, so often they don't have enough resources on the ground to handle this outside delivery piece. And I'm going to say, goes to Dan's whole point. You get one screwed up order, I wouldn't use that online piece again because the local management can't execute. They got all these online orders. They don't have enough people to spread across the store and do online orders. I can tell you, case in point, Lowe's is horrible in Greensboro, North Carolina, horrible at executing in all their stores. But that was my experience 3 or 4 years ago. They might have gotten better. Just go into the store, to Dan's point.
I can't say I've ever used any of these.
Oh, really? All right, well.
Never used a single one of these. I speak from experience because, honestly, I like to pick and choose what I'm buying and be certain I get the right thing, and I don't trust other people my produce for me.
Well, I can tell you, we've had good experiences. I'll tell you this, Lowe's Home Improvement. If you, for instance, if you got like a generic like sheetrock and you don't want to go pick, and you got like 10 sheets of sheetrock and you don't want to go muscle it, do it online and have it where they'll have it ready for you in 6 hours or 4 hours. Yeah, if you don't want to lift all that stuff, do it online because they'll have it out in front for you and then you can just slide it into your truck and you're not muscling it. So, all right, now here's, I would say, the headliner of the night. Solar panels for your house. This was freaking horrible. Here's the highlight. Lady has she's thinking about solar, so she calls the phone number on the ad that's on her television or internet. Dude comes out, says, all right, we'll get you set up. Not in her defense. Don't do this, guys. Don't sign up if you're not 100% ready. Don't have them go run your credit, this woman, and run you through the order process. Don't get in a rush like the salesperson wants to lock you in, because that's what she did when the salesperson showed up on the first sales call, runs her credit. Next thing that happens, she calls him the next day and says, I'm not interested. We're not going to do this. And he's fine. That's okay. Come or roll forward 3 or 4 years, I think it was. She's selling her house, and next thing she knows, she's got a lien against her house that she never knew about that came up on her credit report, and she never checks her credit report. Well, now she's got to go through this whole lien process because of this situation, and then the article gets deeper into this, and this was another one of those articles that are online, and an investigative reporter out of Dallas, Texas, actually ran the story that it was a big enough deal and there's enough fraudulent solar companies out there in the Dallas area. This one, I think, was most, if I recall correctly, Dan, was that?
It is correct. It started with what Freedom Forever was the initial contact, and they were working through a company called Solar Missouri.
The other piece of this is that'll drive you nuts is they canceled the order with the installer. In other words, the people selling it is different than the installation company. And supposedly there was a record of order was canceled, but it wasn't with the actual installation company. And they went ahead and took out a loan of, what the hell was it, 60 grand, 45 grand, something like that, with this order.
Be somewhat $1,000.
All right. It was $90,000. That's ridiculous. And then it shows up 3 or 4 years later and she's got to deal with it. This is going to be another thing that I have a big beef with leadership of companies, that they don't mitigate years later. Why don't they take care of this, be done with it? Or why was there some due diligence done at the end of a job before that the loan was signed off on? Why wasn't that done? This was actually an order that went through to the installer, showed it was a full installation of these solar panels, and then they legitimately started a new $90,000 loan for them, or for her. Does it get any worse than that?
And then what does she possibly have to do? She can't do anything about this at this point. It's already attached to her credit. It's a lien against her house, and she genuinely. The article's fascinating. It should say the actual news story is fascinating. The shows her showing her house saying, "Show me where there are solar panels on my house." There is nothing done to it. There's clearly never been a single slice made in the roof to do any of this. And here she is. It ended up being $97,000 what they were claiming.
There was something. Yeah, okay, good. I think when I listened to the story of the newscast, there were some other ones in there for 45. Either way, 90 grand. Holy hot tamales, folks. That is ridiculous. So here's what I'll continue to say or suggest. Guys, do not give up your social security number, or do not fill out an application unless you are 100% ready to do this. And then make sure you follow it through the process, because you don't know what one company's going to do handing it to another. And this was another one that was involved in acquisitions, where stuff was lost within an acquisition of another company. And this is new leadership. Nobody knew anything about it, but this is a big problem in the solar industry. All right. You want me to continue to repeat myself? Nah, I think you got the point. All righty.
What you tried to say, Teddy, is make certain you know what you're signing off on. Don't just randomly put your signature down on anything. Don't give your special information out until you are truly ready, until you vetted all of the parties out, until you're 100% certain that you are ready to move forward. Do not give up any of your personal information, and do not think that your simple signature can't come back to haunt you, because it absolutely can.
I agree. This was another reason we tried to do a relationship from credit reports to this, because this also has to do with your credit report. If this woman was keeping track in her credit report, she would have known when this lien hit years ago, not awaiting when she sold her house, bought another one, and she was applying for a new mortgage. So just keeping that in mind. All right, guys, short show tonight. Closing thoughts or thoughts till we meet again. Please go to WTAshow.com if you'd like to be on the show. There's a big red button there for Start Here. It's a simple process. Any story, especially like this that we had tonight, dealing with solar panels are a big deal. We'd love to have an interview around that, as well as something like the DR Horton that we had in our previous episode, with shoddy craftsmanship with their homes, as well as that big septic problem. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please provide some podcast feedback, like many other podcasts. And the links to those articles, again, will be below. And what else you got, Dan? Some closing thoughts, please.
So going off what we just talked about, don't assume that just your signature can't get you in trouble. It absolutely can. Do not sign anything if you do not have any intention of moving forward with anything. Signature can lead to a contract you didn't realize you'd signed. Do not put your signature on things that will take lightly on one. Can come back to bite.
Agree. And one last thought. Don't hesitate to record calls, especially when you're dealing with businesses like these. Well, it'll compel us to stick to the fact when you're on the show, but also if you ever have to get a lawyer or bring up the information to the company that you're having an issue with, you can certainly do that with a recorded call. Help you out. On that note, I appreciate the audience for listening to us. And that's a wrap. Thank you very much. Have a good night.